Do you like games like Nordgard but lack the freedom to build? Well, worry no more. Roguelike meets RTS meets city builder, this game is as addicting as it is brutal. When you play the tutorial, the surroundings give you a mix of a fuzzy yet somewhat creepy feeling. Well-drawn characters bravely run up and down in the drizzle to grant you all the resources you want. Quickly you realize that nothing is as it seems as your eyes get drawn to the bottom side of your screen, where a looming red bar is protruding at a somewhat alarming rate. A much more friendly blue bar, however, don't seem to move that much. The red bar is the queen's impatience, and when it is full, you lose. The blue bar is your reputation, and when that is full, you win. The winning conditions are thus straightforward: fill the blue bar to 100% and make sure the red bar doesn't. You start the life of your beautiful, albeit very temporary village in a season called the drizzle. The drizzle softly pours a refreshing rain on your people, and they do seem to enjoy this season a lot. Every drizzle, the queen will give you a cornerstone, a vital buff to help you fulfill her demands, and vital it is. These buffs can be so powerful that winning can become quite easy if you manage to build your city around these buffs. The first drizzle, you get the cornerstone pick around 25% in. The other drizzle, you get the cornerstone whenever the season starts. You start with around 9 people, and the first drizzle you don't get any new people. Every other drizzle you will. A few seconds after getting your cornerstone, around 3 to 5 people will join you, and this can be boosted with cornerstones and other buffs. In a way, you don't want to grow too fast because these people are very demanding, and you need to feed them too. Usually around halfway the season you get another pop-up, and these are called orders. The orders are incredibly vital to win. The queen will give a set of orders with a fitting reward. Make some gold, build a certain building, get villagers to a certain happiness, and fulfilling these orders will usually remove 1 bar of the queen's impatience and will fill 1 bar of your reputation. You see where this is going. These are mighty important. The next season is the clearance, and not much happens there. A peaceful season where you have time to build up your city and interact with your loyal subjects. The last season, however, is the dread of every city. This season is called the Storm, and nothing good happens in the storm. People will flee or even die because of the dreadful events happening. To understand the storm, you must understand the map. You always start in a forest, and you have a very small area where you can build. And around you is a vast area with trees and shimmering shades of open fields called glades. Every woodcutter you hire will have effect on your resolve. Well, the woodcutter causes anxiety amongst the people, which will negatively affect your resolve. The feeling of creeping anxiety is called hostility of the forest. There are many other things that negatively affect your resolve. Every year that passes, the hostility increases, and every glade that you discover, especially dangerous glades, which are marked with a goatish minotaur skull, or even forbidden glades, which are marked with a hairy goatish minotaur skull, these things all will make your people more and more anxious and thus unhappy. But there are many cornerstones that can help you combat this, and these cornerstones, or other buffs, are often one of the most powerful in game and good picks at any time. The storm uses these effects to really impact sanity. Nearly all forest mysteries, which sometimes buff but usually curse you, will be a multiplier from current negative effects, and the worse effect, the higher the curse. Some only trigger after a certain level of hostility of the forest, and you better try to keep it below that level then. However, you can't win the game by not hiring any woodcutters because you need wood, and you need room, and you need resources. In these glades, massive treasures await, new buildings and more ways to get a reputation. The small glades you can freely cut through. You might find some small chests and sometimes camps where you can rescue villagers. Chests can be opened with simple tools or infused tools, which you can get from completing orders and from the merchants. Also, many resources await you to use, and these are vital in order to expand. The dangerous glades are actually the most dangerous, and you can't just cut through them like that, because of a very high chance of finding a cursed event. This event needs to be cleared as soon as possible, and for that you need certain resources. As you play the game a bit longer, you start to recognize these, and you won't cut towards a dangerous glade unless you have a set of clearing materials at the ready. The forbidden glades are usually the most profitable, and before you get them, you are often already at a stage where you can afford to clear them. On a personal note, I found them often more rewarding and safer actually than the dangerous glades. Now let's get started. When you start your first games, at first focus on getting human or beaver races, as they have much more higher base resolve. At the start of the game you get to pick several buildings, and every reputation level you get to pick one more building to build. As you only start with a few starter buildings, and these are vital for meeting all the needs of your villagers. Every new game you only start with your few starter buildings again. And let me explain this part from my own perspective as a player. My first priority is surround both buildings on the map with roads, and I often bring stone with me to boost that part, but dirt roads will do fine. I keep the game paused until I'm done. I open the camp's building tab and drop 2 woodcutters camp, usually near small safe glades. If there is stone around, which will be about 30% of the times, I also place a stonecutters camp. And next up is the industry tab. A crude workstation is key, but sometimes a curse prevents you from building this if you took that difficulty. You must find a way to get bricks, planks and fabrics, else you can't progress. More on that later as I explain the best buildings to pick. I sometimes also place a makeshift post because it is cheap to place, but I probably won't use it for another 6 seasons. Then I check if I see any eggs or roots, usually there are, and I drop a scavenger camp, which is my only current way of getting food and fibers. And then to the housings. Drop a few shelters, around 3 or 4, that will boost resolve enough to get through the first storms. Later you will duplicate the resolve from housing by building specific houses for your races, but you need better building materials first. Then the building for the most easy winning tactic, below prestige 9 difficulty at least, the trading post. I build it as early as possible, usually even before industry buildings. Once you go around Viceroy difficulty, you might want to drop down a blight post early too. With that, the first drizzle will be all about building up the town and the game can be unpaused. And lastly, a rain collector. In the past I used to skip this, but now more and more elements rely on the dew, so I get it at a higher priority. Lastly, go to decorations and place 4 barrels or anything that gives comfort. That will upgrade the heart to the next level as soon as you build houses for 8 people. So what are these cornerstones I talked about? In the first drizzle, you decide what method you're going for. About a quarter in, you get your first cornerstone and you might have some rerolls already, but this is only an epic one. The next cornerstone will be a legendary one. Your focus should be on either reducing hostility or boost resolve. For example, the Firekeeper's armor is a strong one on Viceroy difficulty or higher. Don't bother on lower. Corruption affects buildings positively, but if you are unable to control it, every corrupted heart will kill 3 villagers at the end of the storm. And that will make the queen's impatience grow much faster. Look at silent looting, flame amulets and forest mitigations. They are all a bit weak since it may not reduce more than 1 level in total, but will help nonetheless as safe picks. Or focus on making money. Bed and breakfast is a steady bonus income. Blood price contracts can come in handy. If something goes wrong, well, you can fix it with money. Trade negotiations, if you focus on trade routes, can be comboed with friendly relations and frequent caravans. And trade logs, if you make good money and you want to have more traders. Value added text. This should work, but you need a good production going first to make the packages. They sell for tons though. Or you can focus on some utility cornerstones as well. Cannibalism, well, if things go wrong, at least you won't be hungry. Nullifies unhappiness due hunger. Whoever leaves or dies from hunger will feed the rest. Then we have Burn to a Crisp. After Viceroy difficulty will get better if corruption is more aggressive. And generous gifts a lot of free stuff, including tools and parts. Peasant supplies, ideal for trade route boosting. Reinforced access for better wood income. Woodpecker technique for free food income. And exploration contract ensures you can keep making bricks and fabrics without having to rely on stonecutters or harvesters. Anything that gives resources per minute is also a very safe pick. At the start of the second drizzle you get to choose a legendary one. Again, focus on hostility reduction. For example, Baptism of Fire, very strong, that will keep hostility down effectively, and Calming the Forest. Decently strong, depends on how actively you explore. Making money is Lumber Tax, absolutely strong, you will gain a ton of wood, thus gain tons of money. Prosperous Settlements for a wealth victory, and you can also focus on boosting Resolve. For example, Rebellious Spirits, which is a rather safe pick, will give you 6 to 7 resolve when you most need it. Utility? Over-diligent workers, free barrels. All you need is a tavern and a way to make ale now, or sell them for good money. And back to the nature, pick it if you have a hard time getting food or when fertile fields are scarce. Then you have the old Fedora hat for a bit of a gamble. If you're heavy on exploration, you could give this a go. At least take lost supplies as well then. Here are my best picks, albeit sometimes conditional. My top purple ones are grainbacks, but only if you already unlocked a small farm. Can be comboed with moldy grain seeds or maybe reinforced tools. And then my personal favorite, fungal guide. Once you have greenhouses, which will come later in the game, this is just crazy. You'll find yourself sitting on hundreds and hundreds of mushrooms, which can be turned into flour and then into luxury food. Then my top legendaries are protected trade, before prestige 9 at least. After that, selling is halved and it would still work but will be very hard to benefit from. And trade hub, this is the easiest win ever. Also below prestige 9, perfect combo with protected trade and prosperous settlement. Then for a bit of a backup, smuggler's visit can save your life if you really need a building for an order or to boost global resolve. Other ways to gain buffs and cornerstones are from clearing events. Traders often sell them for anywhere in between 7 and 30, and when you get some new tradings you can simply buy treasure caches containing tons of buffs. Don't pick anything where you may not get the resources for. You need every cornerstone to win. Don't use a reroll if anything half decent appears, and don't reroll on epic cornerstones. These are the purple ones. So let's take a look at buildings. Every reputation point you get to pick one new building, and 3 at the start of a game. What to pick depends somewhat on which racers you have. Food production buildings are buildings like farms, plantations, but also gatherers and herbalists. The first group uses farm fields and you want to have at least one of those. Small farms are a very safe pick, but later you unlock greenhouses and that is simply a must-have. Once you have one, you don't need any other. However, later in game, if you have food covered, you can freely pick a forester's hut, which is extremely useful for heavy exploration cities, or a clay pit, which produces clay and reed. The second one are the gatherers buildings and require finite resources on the map. Personally, I rarely pick those, but I might be swayed picking an occasional trapper's camp if I have many resources on the map. And then comes the industry buildings. Hands down, the best buildings you can pick are the scribe, which is my personal favorite. Scrolls and ale for leisure and education cover at least one need for every race, and tools are a must-have for exploration. Then we have the workshop. Workshop is much cheaper than the crude workstation and is a massive upgrade for your production tools. I kinda like the smokehouse as well. This one is helpful if you have a good clay income. You need pottery for ale production and it covers the incense for the religion need. Also the jerky is easy to make and covers a vital need for the tougher to please races. Then another favorite is my druid's hut. Covers a very important need, clothing, and creates oil, which is the base for many recipes. Also offers an additional way to gain incense. You might want to take this if you have a small farm set up. Others, if you want to fulfill other needs, the cooperage or artisan or alchemist huts are good picks, as you can cover the base for the most other advanced city buildings. Some buildings like the Finesmith and the Rainpunk Foundry are stupid powerful but are found in glades. At first you may need to pick personal housing buildings as well to boost the housing needs of your people, but after level 10 those will just be brought automatically, so you don't have to buy them from reputation anymore. Then we have city buildings, and these are buildings that require several villagers to operate and are expensive to build. Simply placing villagers inside will already provide a boost in global resolve, but having the correct materials is a way to make people really happy. For example, the forum. My most desired outcome is the forum plus a scribe. This will be a massive boost for the town, plus 15% bonus production chance is also very decent. If you go the money way, Guild House is a must-have. 50% faster traders, plus 1 global resolve per 60 amber. Combo this with a trade hub, protect the trade and prosperous settlements, and you have a win faster than you can blink. Requires wines though, so you might need an alchemist hut or a cellar for that. Then we have the monastery, grants a flat bonus on hostility reduction of 100, which is 1 level. And the tavern grants a flat +3 on global resolve. Temple buff is kinda too weak to bother unless you find yourself a holy temple, then it's insanely powerful, as that also reduces hostility by 10 for every 2 villagers with the need for education fulfilled. Market doesn't do anything for me. Sure, 10% extra carry capacity is handy, but I always build a lot of storage so that I don't need to walk that far. Again, a holy market would be an insane boost in very happy settlements. Explorer Lodge Could work if you have a place with a lot of runes, but I would only pick it in a certain amount of conditions. Clan Hall is one of the worst. Personally, I barely have any active camps, but I always go the infinite farm way, and Bedhouse is a rather safe pick for a minor boost. Then let's talk about the progression in general. So now we have covered what you can build and why you should or shouldn't, and let's take a look at how to progress in the game. A lot of choices you make will revolve at what the glades and the trader has to offer you. You might want to sacrifice valuable resources early on to get a very strong upgrade. Let's give a practical example. A trader arrives and I see a +1 to mushroom production for 14 amber. Surely, I could buy a lot of planks or even mushrooms for that money, but I already have Back to Nature, which boosts farm production by 100%. So for me that would be a +2. Checking my greenhouse, I now see them produce 10 mushrooms at a time, which is the base 4 + 1 times 2. And only 3 villagers can now secure my entire food needs from this point on. Since the drizzle arrived, I can pick another cornerstone, and I do see one of my favorites, grain bags, but I don't have any grain production or farms, so I of course skip that and go for silent looting. This way I can suppress my hostility. Hostility reduction is always a safe pick on any difficulty. Then newcomers arrived, and one group with humans and beavers and one with an additional harpy. Harpies are notoriously hard to please, so I don't even care what the goods are and pick the safe one. I have cut through my first dangerous glade, which I dared because I bought 10 infused tools earlier, and the glade contains an ancient shrine, which is a very safe one, but you have to clear it before the threat timer runs out, as it will kill 5 villagers. I also have enough provisions to clear the entire shrine, which is a way better choice than use the infused tool, so I choose those and assign 2 villagers. The game I started was a daily encounter, which is a sort of special mission for bonus rewards. The bad modifier I started with was starting with 8 queens in patience, so I'm not even doing that bad so far, but I surely set myself up for a challenge. I also didn't pick a prestige difficulty, as that would be nearly impossible. To boost the reputation and reduce the impatience, I choose the send to the capital option. I also want to clear the abandoned cache with the infused tools, and I run into a dilemma. I do have the forester's hut, so I can produce resin. The cache offers a +2 on resin, and in any other scenario I would have picked that. But then, due to Queen's impatience, I don't dare. So again I pick send to the capital to even out the bars in the bottom. For cutting through the forest, towards a dangerous glade, I have a strict set of rules. I always start cutting in the end of the storm season, and I start clearing the runes as soon as possible in the drizzle. This way I avoid clearing a cursed glade that affects resolve or hostility while it is in the storm season. The cleared cache offers me enough reputation to pick a building. Since I do have a massive mushroom production, having a rain mill to make flour and could use pottery to make more ale, the bakery would be the choice to pick. I still need a city building badly, preferably one for leisure, as I have already a good ale production going, but the bakery would fulfill many needs, so rerolling is not an option. Choosing new orders comes at the start of the clearance season later in the game. Since I have no wine production, the dew production order is very easy in comparison, and it also gives me bonus to crystallized dew production and several wildfire essence, all very important items. The next order is either serving ale, which is a goal I already work towards, and the other one is a kiln. Since I have 3 chances of obtaining a city building for serving the ale and only 1 chance to even unlock a kiln, the first option is the only viable one. Both chosen orders offer me pottery, which I can use to create ale. When the next trader arrives, I choose a storm duration reduction, which ensures the bad season takes 50% less long, and buy some building materials. Afterwards I want to try to rebuild the Vinesmith, which is an awesome building to make tools and amber. Since I don't have any planks and I just bought the other building materials, I assign a second beaver to the workshop and force plank only production by clicking the up arrow. The workers will continue making planks until I either set it back to 0 or they run out of materials, only then will they make the other things. I also build a second dew collector to fulfill the order. I move a woodcutter closer to the dangerous glade. The storm season is almost near and I want to start clearing it as soon as I can, but I might not have the resources at the moment, which is a somewhat dangerous move. Once the workshop employees completely fill the workshop storage, they will bring it to the main storage and the scout can take it towards the Vinesmith building. The storm season dropped the beavers below the threshold, which means if their global resolve drops to 0, they will start to leave. If you have more than one race, you can press the lighter treatment icon to boost their resolve, which I use to ensure no one leaves for the moment. I usually click at the moment I see a red timer bar around the portraits, and as soon as it makes the entire circle, one will leave. Next storm will be much more dangerous, so I have to boost their resolve this drizzle or clearance season. The easiest way for now is to make more beaver houses. This drizzle, all initial cornerstones are not good enough for me, so I finally use one of my rerolls. The second one has 2 decent hits, Prosperous Settlements and Over-Diligent Workers. I choose the Prosperous Settlements. Another option to boost resolve is upgrade the hearth, which requires some decoration, so I create build orders for all of them. Afterwards I order my woodcutters to cut towards the next dangerous glade directly. The next glade has a fuming machinery which I must clear within 5 minutes. As predicted, I don't have the resources to do it right away, so the best bet is to stop the greenhouse from producing anything and using my dew for just a bit and set full man on dew production right away. I invest heavily in buying some extra infused tools for the cache, and the new area has some fertile fields for the forester hut, so that's a bonus as well. I have a lot of copper ore, so I upgrade my roads to give the 25% bonus speed. The Finesmith allows me to make the tools I need, but I will require the Forester's Hut for both recipes. Regardless, I first need the 100 dew for the order, so I can't have the greenhouse doing too much at the moment at all. I make it through the next storm, but impatience is growing pretty hard again and I'm somewhat worried. For now, flame amulets will help me reduce hostility a bit, so it's a valid choice. The next trader sells a monastery, which is a must-have for now, do all leisure quests, as I was rather unlucky with the reputation rolls earlier. I set it to top priority as I need it built as soon as possible. With both a monastery and a temple I picked from the reputation rolls, I reduce the overall hostility to level 1 for now, so that will help me massively. With all those happiness, I can help the humans get to 32 global resolve, albeit at the cost of others, at least long enough to complete the order. With some more room to breathe, I can focus on making more money and prepare to break through a forbidden glade as well. I also need some raw resources, either grain or roots, to make the ale. The next trader has a spiced ale perk, which is a small but minor boost, so I buy that as well. With the remainder of the money, I boost my ale stock to complete the leisure order. The next storm isn't even close to hurting me, and the next order pops in. Either beaver population or 2 hubs. I already have 15 beavers, and the next order asks for 3 more, which would be easy to complete. I also was already building a second hub, but it would be much harder to complete it as I need to get it upgraded too. Despite the reward from it, the fungal growth perk would offer me another +2 mushrooms, which will be +4. It would be massive, but the beaver order will boost my resolve more directly and my food production is already going really fast. Therefore, beaver majority would be much more easy to accomplish. Since the resolve is so very high, I start generating reputation automatically and that will help increase it. Either way, both are very good for my city. Next drizzle, I can choose from either Prosperous Settlement or Rebellious Spirit. Rebellious Spirit will give me a lot of free resolve and boost it even more, while the Prosperous Settlement would be very beneficial in the long run. At this point I'm going so fast, the long run won't even happen anyway, so the choice is easy. The next drizzle offered me 3 beavers, so that complete the order easily. I add buildings to make tools, weapons and clothing as well, and pick a tavern from the reputation list. The next event from the Forbidden Glade is dangerous. It burns through a lot of fuel and I might be in serious trouble, especially since my woodcutters took a while to cut through it. I disable all form of wood burning as I need every single fuel item I can find for the next 5 minutes. I don't have to clear the last event as I break open a new dangerous glade and go straight for the abandoned cache. My Finesmith is crafting infused tools, so no worries there anymore. Once the reputation reaches the required maximum, the game ends instantly. You can choose to continue as I did once, but it was somewhat unbalanced then. Without the Queen's Impatience, the game is exceptionally easy and nothing caps any further. It is like Civilization, once you did a hard start, it becomes quickly clear who's going to win once you build up momentum. If you level up, you gain new rewards, for example level 16. The first reward is already dazzling overpowered, hidden from the Queen. That means with that cornerstone you can strongly capitalize on cornerstones like cannibalism. Another one, Firelink Ritual, is almost equally strong, as you now know that with the correct cornerstones, religion builds can be exceptionally viable. This is the greatest part of this game. When you start the game you think, oh nice, a lot of building, a lot of threats and events. But after leveling you keep unlocking tons of content. Every game you can have a reward based on the type of the game you choose. Most games just provide food stockpiles, but starting the game with disadvantages can also grant machinery and artifacts. From the world map you can go to the smoldering city and have two options there. Deeds. Those are achievements that provide a boost in experience but also give a lot of decoration items, which spice up your town a lot. Or you can choose buy upgrades. Buying upgrades is essential in giving you the edge when the game becomes harder. Take for example embarkments. You can upgrade your Obsidian Archive and Pioneer's Gate to increase the points you can spend on embarkment goods and expand the type of goods you can bring. When starting a new city, the next screen will offer you all unlocked options, which is a head start that becomes bigger when your city level progresses. The dim square will mainly boost your trading potential. The brass forge will have essentially upgrades for industrial buildings and industrial embarkment bonuses. The monastery of the vigilant flame will boost the cornerstone pool and boost your fuel burning limits. The first dawn headquarters will revolve around farming, and lastly the vanguard spire is all about boosting resolve. So how about these difficulties I mentioned a few times? From the main map you can choose a new spot to settle your city. After a certain amount of levels, other civilizations will also start settling. During the game you can establish trade routes to those cities. On the world map you find many modifiers that may give bonuses that are either beneficial or not. For example, the ruined settlement modifier could be beneficial and could finally give me a reason to build an explorer's lodge. Buildings in glades can be extremely potential as you saw in the game earlier. Afterwards you can choose your difficulty. At first the options are Settler, Pioneer, Veteran and Viceroy, and after you played a few games and gained a few levels you quickly find even Viceroy relatively easy. But don't worry, because there is Prestige. Currently I'm on Prestige 10. Up until 8 it has been rather easy as I could always fall back to Ember related victories to carry me, but since it was halved at Prestige 9 it became a lot harder. Every Prestige level you unlock will carry all the previous Prestige difficulties with it as well, so Prestige 10 is just horrible at times. Other modifiers can be extremely beneficial, for example Forsaken God's Temple. If they can't leave, they can't make the Queen unhappy, so you can just focus on food and money and win by trading. Lastly, the daily expedition offers an exceptionally challenging challenge for a lot of rewards. But you can't get achievements like if you win for the first time on Prestige 10, you won't get an achievement when you did a daily expedition. So I hope this guide helps you become better at the game. It's a great game for when you have an hour or so to burn. Although I often run the entire game on triple speed and pause it a few times, as you don't have to do that many interactions and it becomes a bit of a repeat, especially early game. The developers are extremely active and the roadmap keeps upgrading the game. For an early alpha, this game is polished and in an exceptional finished state. I thank you for watching.